Hello, this is Shmuel Moshe, and you are listening to the Weekly Parashahcast Season 2, the show where I read the Tanakh and provide my own interpretations of what I think it all means. This week's portion is for Parashat Chukat on the 9th of Tammuz, 5785, July 5th, 2025, and we're going to be reading from the Book of Kings, Melachim, chapters 4, 5, and 6, picking up where we left off from last week. Now, as always, I want to remind everybody I'm not a professional scholar, just somebody who wanted to study the scripture. You can follow along in English on Chabad.org. Without further ado, let's begin the book of Melachim 1, Kings 1, chapter 4, verse 1. And King Solomon was king over all Israel. And these were the princes whom he had: Azariahu, the son of Zadok the priest, Elioreph and Ahiah, the sons of Shisha, scribes, Yehoshaphat, and the son of Ahilud the recorder. And Benaiahu the son of Jehoiada was over the host, and Zadok and Abiathar were the priests. And Azariahu the son of Nathan was over the officers, and Zabud the son of Nathan was principal officer, and the king's friend. And Ahishar was over the household, and Adoniram the son of Abda was over the levy. And Solomon had 12 officers over all Israel, who provided victuals for the king and his household. Each man had to make provision for a month in the year. And these are their names: the son of Hur on Mount Ephraim, the son of Decher in Makaz, and in Shalbim, and in Beth-Shemesh, and Elon Beth-Hanan. The son of Hesed in Arubot, to him pertains Sokho, and all the land of Hefer. The son of Abinadab, all the region of Dor. Tappath, the daughter of Solomon, was to him as a wife. Baanah, the son of Ahilud, to him pertained Taanach and Megiddo, and all Beth-Shean, which is beside Zaretana, beneath Jezreel, from Beth-Shean to Abemechola, as far as beyond Yokmim. The son of Geber in Ramoth Gilead, to him pertained the towns of Yair, the son of Menashe, which are in Gilead. To him also pertained the region of Argob, which is in Bashan, 60 great cities with walls and brazen bars. Ahinadab, the son of Edo, was appointed to Machanaim. Achimaaz was in Naphtali. Also he took Basimat, the daughter of Solomon, as a wife. Baanah, the son of Hushai, was in Asher. And in Alot, Yehoshaphat, the son of Paruach, was in Issachar. Shimei, the son of Elah, was in Benjamin. Geber, the son of Uri, in the country of Gilead, in the land of Sichon, king of the Amorites, and of Og, king of Bashan, and one officer that was over all the officers in the land. Judah and Israel were many, as the sand which is by the sea in multitude, eating and drinking and rejoicing. End of chapter 4. So, beginning here, we see that Solomon has effectively consolidated his power. He is the king over all of Israel, and it says that he had these princes who were with him. So we went over his immediate crew from Azariahu to Elioreph and so on, the scribes, the recorder, and also the priests. So we get all of these figures. Now we see that the descendants of Zadok and Abiathar, or they are still the priests, rather. Benaiahu, the son of Jehoiada, is now over the host. The two of Nathan, the prophet Nathan, his sons are at high office as well. And we just see that there's a lot going on. And then there's also Adoniram, son of Abda, was over the levy. Now levy meaning the tax. So here we take a look. It says Solomon had 12 officers over all Israel. So these are his top guys representing all the different tribes, I presume, or at least the different regions that are under his overall jurisdiction. And so it says they provide victuals for the king and his household. Each man had to make provision for a month in the year. So basically, imagine it like this. You've got 12 different guys around the country whose job is 1 month out of the year. It's your turn to deliver the tribute, the offering to the king. Specifically, in this case, the offering is food, providing the necessary food for the king and his people. So that once every year, as I said, across the 12 months, each of them are providing the spoils or the food to supply the king and his court. So it also notes here who each of these individuals are, and it just details the entire land and beyond the Jordan as well. So we see like the land of Og of Bashan, so on and so on. I notice here there is a mention of the strong bars in Bashan, which I think is a funny little, not funny, but it's interesting to see that mentioned again, because that note was said about the rods of Bashan in previous readings we had done here on the show. And I remember at the time I thought, what is the significance of that? But I guess that was one of the defining features of the cities that belonged to King Og of Bashan. Anyway, putting that aside, it notes that we have a very large list of who's running what, or who's in charge of collecting the food for each region, and it notes that Judah and Israel were as many as the sand, which is by the sea in multitude. So they were populous, there were lots of them, and they were eating, drinking, and rejoicing. So it was all in all a great time to be an Israelite. Now, I always find it interesting that Judah constantly gets singled out. Right, this has happened many times. It's always here, and here's how much Israel was, and also Judah was this many. Why separate them? I don't really like that personally. Why do that sort of thing? Why separate Judah from the others? Why lump all the others together and make Judah exceptionally different? I feel like that is a very strange thing to do, even if it is where the king comes from. I don't personally think that's I don't think that's the right way to treat all the people, all the tribes of Israel. And I think that's also what causes this sense of superiority. I mean, look, Bnei Israel are the people of Israel, the children of Israel. It is inclusive of all the tribes. But here we see the scripture giving favoritism to the tribe of Judah, even before the tribe of Judah had been placed as the king tribe. It's just very interesting to me that this is the case. Now, of course, we also got the tribe of Levi, which are amongst all the tribes, but my point being, I find this to be a little bit disheartening for we call them the 12 tribes, the lost tribes, right? The 10 lost tribes. Well, yeah, maybe they wouldn't want to be found if you don't even take the time to name them individually and show them the same respect. And I bring this up because it talks about when everybody made the offerings for the tabernacle and so on, and the offerings that were brought from the 12 princes. Each tribe gets named with the same dignity and respect, but now we just lump them all together and call them Israel, and Judah is something else. And I think that's a very bad practice that really does not honor the other tribes of Israel. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and continue on with chapter 5 in the book of Kings 1, Melachim 1, verse 1. And Solomon reigned over all the kingdoms from the river to the land of the Philistines, and to the border of Egypt they brought presents, and served Solomon all the days of his life. And Solomon's provision for one day was 30 measures of fine flour, and 60 measures of meal, 10 fat oxen, and 20 oxen out of the pastures, and 100 sheep besides harts, and deer, and fallow deer, and fatted fowl. For he had dominion over all the inhabitants on this side of the river, from Tifsah even to Gaza, over all the kings on this side of the river, and he had peace on all sides around. And Judah and Israel dwelt safely, every man under his vine and under his fig tree, from Dan even to Beersheba, all the days of Solomon. And Solomon had 40,000 stalls of horses for his chariots, and 12,000 horsemen. And these officers provided victuals for King Solomon, and for all that came unto King Solomon's table. Every man in his month, they lacked nothing. And the barley and the straw for the horses, and swift steeds they brought to the place where he would be there, every man according to his charge. And God gave Solomon wisdom and understanding exceedingly much, and largeness of heart as the sand that is on the seashore. And Solomon's wisdom was greater than the wisdom of all the children of the east, and all the wisdom of Egypt. And he was wiser than all men, than Ethan the Ezrahite, and Heman, and Chalcol, and Darda, the sons of Mahol, and his fame was in all the nations round about. And he spoke 3,000 proverbs, and his songs were 1,005. And he spoke of trees, from the cedar tree that is in Lebanon, and to the hyssop that springs out of the wall. And he spoke of the beasts, and of the fowl, and of the creeping things, and of the fishes. And they came of all peoples to hear the wisdom of Solomon, from all the kings of the earth who had heard his wisdom. And Hiram king of Tyre sent his servants to Solomon, for he had heard that they had anointed him king in place of his father. For Hiram was ever a lover of David. And Solomon sent to Hiram, saying, You knew my father, David, that he could not build a house for the name of the Lord his God, because of the wars which surrounded him, until the Lord put them under the soles of his feet. And now the Lord my God has given me rest on every side. There is neither adversary nor evil occurrence. And behold, I purpose to build a house for the name of the Lord my God, as the Lord spoke to David my father, saying, Your son, whom I will set upon your throne in your place, he shall build a house for my name. And now, command that they hew me cedar trees out of Lebanon, and my servant shall be with your servants, and I will give you hire for your servants according to all that you shall say. For you know that there is not among us any who is skilled to hew timber like the Zidonians. And it was when Hiram heard the words of Solomon that he rejoiced greatly, and said, Blessed be the Lord this day, who has given David a wise son over this great people. And Hiram sent to Solomon, saying, I have heard that which you have sent me. I will do all your desires concerning cedar wood and concerning cypress wood. My servant shall bring them down from Lebanon to the sea, and I will make them into rafts to go by the sea to the place that you shall send me. And I will separate them there, and you will transport them, and you shall accomplish my desire in giving food for my household. And Hiram gave Solomon cedar wood and cypress wood according to all his desire. And Solomon gave Hiram 20,000 measures of wheat for food to his household, and 20 measures of beaten oil. Thus gave Solomon to Hiram year by year. And the Lord gave Solomon wisdom, as he had promised him, and there was peace between Hiram and Solomon, and they both made a league together. And King Solomon raised a levy out of all Israel, and the levy was 30,000 men. And he sent them to Lebanon 10,000 a month alternately. A month they were in Lebanon, and 2 months at home. And Adoniram was over the levy. And Solomon had 70,000 who bore burdens, and 80,000 hewers in the mountains. Besides Solomon's chief officers that were over the work, 3,300 who bore rule over the people that wrought in the work. And the king commanded, and they quarried great stones, heavy stones, to lay the foundation of the house with hewn stone. And Solomon's builders and Hiram's builders and the Gebalites did hew them, and they prepared the timber and the stones to build the house. End of chapter 5. All right, so it's time for a recap. We just heard the details around the founding or creation of the temple of the God of Israel. So first we hear a little bit about Solomon's reign. He is ruling over all the kingdoms from the river to the land of the Philistines and the border of Egypt. They brought presents. So basically Solomon he is large and in charge, and he's doing a great job. So first off, it says his provisions for one day, 30 measures of fine flour, 60 measures of meal, and several animals, and so on. So this tells you what was needed every day, or what was expected for his feasts throughout the day and his people. It says that he had dominion over all the people on this side of the river, from Tifsah even to Gaza, over all the kings on this side of the river, and peace on all sides around. So they rule over all the people here. Solomon is king. And it says that under his rule, it was peaceful. Everybody was able to sit under his own fig tree, from Dan even to Beersheba, all the days of Solomon. So he was this great of a king that it was nonstop peace. It says he had 40,000 stalls of horses for his chariots, 12,000 horsemen. And these officers provided victuals for King Solomon and for all that came unto his table. Every man in his month they lacked nothing, so they are all delivering as promised. Likewise, the barley and straw for horses and steeds they brought to the place where he would be, every man according to his charge. So everybody did what they were supposed to do. They brought the necessary taxed goods, and Solomon is doing great once again. It says he's exceeding in wisdom and understanding, thanks to God's gift of those things, largeness of heart, which suggests that he is very magnanimous, very giving, and also that just all these things about him are greater than even the sand on the shore, or as the sand on the seashore. So it says he was wiser than those in the east and those of Egypt. He was wiser than Ethan the Ezrahite, Heman, Chalcol, and Darda, the sons of Mahol. I think we get the idea. He's very wise. 3,000 proverbs, 1,005 songs. Speaking of the trees and so on, so he talks about nature. He knows everything about animals and creatures. He just knows everything, and people all over are coming to hear him speak because he knows so much. He's got so much wisdom that everybody wants to hear him talk. Now, we get halfway through here, and we hear about Hiram, the king of Tyre. So, or Hiram. So, he is a very good ally to David. And so he has heard that Solomon has been appointed to David's throne. And so what happens here is Solomon sends him a message, and he says, you knew my father, and that he could not build a temple because of the wars that were happening. But now I have total rest around me, and I have no enemies, no evil, nothing going on. So I am going to build this house for the Lord, and I would like to ask you that your people cut down cedar trees for me so that we can build this temple, and I will pay you according to whatever you say is the right price. I'll pay you because we know nobody among us is as skilled as the Zidonians when it comes to cutting timber. And when he hears this, the king Hiram is very happy. He says, "Blessed be the Lord this day who has given to David a wise son over this great people." And he tells him, "I've heard that which you have sent me. I will do all your desires concerning cedar wood and concerning cypress wood." And so he tells him, "We're going to basically provide you with the wood. We're going to use it to turn it into rafts and sail it across the sea to you, and then cut them up back into individual logs, and you'll be able to use them. Now, in exchange, I would like food. Please provide me with food." So this is the barter that they have agreed upon. And so Hiram gives Solomon the cedar and cypress wood, and Solomon in turn gives him 20,000 measures of wheat and also 20 measures of beaten oil year by year. So this is what he offers to him in exchange year by year. So this may be a persistent tax. This may be a persistent tribute or tax that he does annually, or it's just simply part of the agreement while this whole thing is going on. Either way, this is part of the good trade relation of lumber for food between Solomon and Hiram of Tyre. So from here, he sends a levy out of all Israel, 30,000 men. So this means that he's taxing on the people, workers, right? So he says, "Give me 10,000. 10,000 and 10,000, 30,000. And so what happens is he alternates them in a rotation of 10,000 will go work at a time, and then they'll go home for 2 months, and then they'll come back on the third month. So he rotates these 3 groups of 10,000 so that they don't get overworked, that they get to see their families. And so for, month 1, it's group A for 10,000 guys, group B, another 10,000 for month 2, and then group C for month 3 is the third 10,000, and then month 4 we go back to group A. So it's a very simple process as far as keeping these people not too far from home. I think this is also a good way to keep morale high. It just seems like a very good thing to do. Now we also see that Solomon has additional officers overseeing this whole thing. So Adoniram was over the levy. He oversees it. He has 70,000 who bore burdens and 80,000 hewers in the mountains. So we can assume that this is how many people had been contracted through Hiram. And then also it says, in addition to his chief officers, he's also got 3,300 who bore rule over the people that wrought in the work. So 3,300 managers, basically. And it also adds, the king commanded they quarried great stones, heavy stones, to lay the foundation of the house with hewn stone. And it says Solomon's builders and Hiram's builders, and also it says the Gibeonites did hew them. So the Gibeonites seem to be the ones that they've commissioned for this particular work, or a slave people. We don't know for sure at a glance, but this is how the foundation of the house is set down, and of course the timber is getting ready to be used for the building. So now we move on to the last chapter for this week, chapter 6 from the book of Kings, verse 1. And it was in the 480th year after the departure of the children of Israel from Egypt, in the 4th year, in the month of Ziv, which is the 2nd month of Solomon's reign over Israel, that he did begin to build the house of the Lord. And the house which King Solomon built for the Lord was the length thereof 60 cubits, and the breadth thereof 20 cubits, and the height thereof 30 cubits. And the porch before the temple of the house 20 cubits was the length thereof, before the breadth of the house, and 10 cubits was the breadth thereof before the house. And he made for the house windows broad without and narrow within. And against the wall of the house he built a chamber round about, against the walls of the house round about, both of the temple and of the sanctuary. And he made chambers round about. The nethermost chamber was 5 cubits broad, and the middle was 6 cubits broad. And the third was 7 cubits broad, for he made rebatements in the wall of the house round about on the outside, that the beam should not have hold in the walls of the house. And the house, when it was in building, was built of stone, finished at the quarry, and there was neither hammer nor axe, nor any tool of the iron heard in the house, while it was in the building. The door of the lowest chamber was in the right side of the house, and with winding stairs they went up into the middle chamber, and from the middle into the third. And he built the house and finished it, and he covered the house with paneling and joined planks of cedar. And he built the chambers against all the house, each 5 cubits high. And he covered the house with timber of cedar. And the word of the Lord came to Solomon, saying, Concerning this house which you are building, if you walk in my statutes and execute my ordinances, and keep all my commandments to walk in them, then I will establish my word with you, which I spoke to David your father. And I will dwell among the children of Israel, and will not forsake my people Israel. And Solomon built the house and finished it. And he built the walls of the house within the boards of cedar, from the floor of the house till the joists of the ceiling. He covered them on the inside with wood, and he covered the floor of the house with boards of cypress. And he built the 20 cubits at the end of the house with boards of cedar, from the floor until the joists of the ceiling, and he built it within for a sanctuary for the Holy of Holies. And 40 cubits was the house, that is the temple before the sanctuary. And the cedar of the house within was carved with knobs and open flowers. All was cedar, there was no stone seen. And the sanctuary he prepared in the midst of the house within, to set there the ark of the covenant of the Lord. And within the sanctuary was 20 cubits in length, and 20 cubits in breadth, and 20 cubits its height. And he overlaid it with pure gold, and he covered the altar with cedar. And Solomon overlaid the house from within them with pure gold. And he barred with chains of gold before the sanctuary, and he overlaid it with gold. And the whole house he overlaid with gold, until all the house was finished, and the whole altar that was by the sanctuary he overlaid with gold. And he made within the sanctuary 2 cherubim of olive wood, each 10 cubits its height. And 5 cubits was the one wing of the cherub, and 5 cubits the other wing of the cherub. 10 cubits were from the uttermost part of its one wing to the uttermost part of its other wing. And the 10 cubits was the other cherub. Both the cherubim were of one measure and one form. The height of the one cherub was 10 cubits, and so was it the other cherub. And he set the cherubim within the inner house, and they stretched forth the wings of the cherubim, and the wing of the one touched the wall, and the wing of the other cherub touched the other wall, and their wings in the midst of the house touched one another. And he overlaid the cherubim with gold, and all the walls of the house he surrounded with figures, carved figures of cherubim and palm trees and open flowers from within and for the one without. And the floor of the house he overlaid with gold for the one within and for the one without. And for the entrance of the sanctuary he made doors of olive wood. The lintel and side posts were of 5 parts. And 2 doors of olive wood, and he carved upon them carvings of cherubim, and palm trees, and open flowers, and he overlaid them with gold, and spread the gold upon the cherubim and upon the palm trees. And he made likewise for the entrance of the temple side posts of olive wood of 4 parts, and 2 doors of cypress wood. 2 leaves of the one door were folding, and 2 leaves of the other door were folding. And he carved thereon cherubim and palm trees and open flowers, and he overlaid them with gold fitted upon the carved work. And he built the inner court with 3 rows of hewn stone, and a row of cut cedar beams. In the 4th year was the foundation of the house of the Lord laid in the month of Ziv, and in the 11th year, in the month of Bul, which is the 8th month, the house was finished throughout all the parts thereof, and according to all the fashion of it, and he built it 7 years. End of chapter 6. So, a lengthy explanation of what exactly is in the house. So, it says it's the year 480 after leaving Egypt, and it's now in the 4th year, in the month of Ziv, which is the 2nd month of Solomon's reign over Israel. So it's now time. He's pretty much expediting. This is like one of his first major projects that he's going to do as king, and so he notes here exactly, it says how this thing was built, the exact dimensions. We're not going to go over all those again. I will focus on some of the parts. You know, when I'm reading the descriptions, it reminds me of some of the temples that I've seen from other cultures, the way that they're built, especially fashioned out of wood and so on. It makes me think of temples from places like Japan, which still stand this day. These very significant sanctuaries and tributes of various kinds. And so we see here that this one was adorned, carved, and so on with wood, and also overlaid with lots of gold. So it was very beautiful. So it says, when the house, when it was in building, was built of stone, finished at the quarry, neither hammer nor axe nor any tool of iron heard in the house while it was in building. So all the materials had been basically fashioned away from the home and then brought in, rather than doing it inside of the home, keeping it very calm and peaceful, a place of tranquility, if you will. Paneling and planks of cedar and so on. It's all gorgeous from the description here. And you can imagine, at least with the descriptions, if you're good at visualizing architecture, you could probably recreate this temple fairly easily in some sort of 3D modeling program, or with other tools, like actual logs, if you wanted to really get creative there. But in any case, going on from there, we also see that it has a section for the Holy of Holies set aside, and it's 40 cubits was the houses, the temple before the sanctuary. There's just so much here. It's carved with knobs and flowers and so on, and within 20 cubits in length and 20 cubits in breadth, so 20 by 20 by 20, overlaid with gold, altar covered it with cedar. overlaid the house from within with pure gold. I mean, it's just gold everywhere. And then also it talks about the cherubim. So the cherubim are the little angel guys, right? So they're the ones who are sort of like the ones who carry God on their shoulders, one might say, or on their wings. The cherubim are present on the Ark of the Covenant as well. So it's not surprising that this place where God is supposed to be able to kind of touch down would have his direct servants, the cherubim, little cherubs, standing about with their wings spread, ready for him. So the imagery here is always interesting to me because something like idolatry and graven images are not allowed. But here we see once again, cherubim are somehow the exception as they are making these carved out cherubim with gold and stone and all these and wood. I mean, they're making what one could consider to be a graven image, right? But somehow it's okay when it's a cherub, because it's like a servant of God or something of this effect. Or also, most people would never lay their eyes upon it because it's going in the Holy of Holies. So maybe that also is an exception worth consideration. Now, beyond that, it notes here that the duration of the construction was, as it says, in the 4th year was the foundation of the house, in the month of Ziv. In the 11th year, in the 8th month, was it finished. So during year 4, month 2 of Solomon's reign, he starts, and then in 11th year, during the month of Bul, he has finished the project. The commission is done, and so it is constructed. There you have it, the holy temple for God, the house of God. And that's the end of this week's reading. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you found it educational and interesting. I certainly was very curious to hear about the differences between Solomon's reign and David's reign. In any case, this has been Shmuel Moshe with the Weekly Parashahcast Season 2 saying thank you for listening. Hope you'll tune in next time, and until then, Baruch Hashem.